What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm sure this face on the screen is ringing many bells to you today, especially because Netflix just released a documentary covering the disappearance of Amy Bradley. And this is actually the last image that was taken of Amy on that cruise back in 1998. March 23rd to be exact. No one knows where Amy is. They don't know. There's speculation that Amy jumped off the boat. There's speculation that Amy has been smuggled. There's speculation that Amy wanted to be off the boat and get away from her family and is living a life that she wants to live. There's speculation she's a part of a ring, that she's being prostituted, that she... all of these things. And then there's people on many different social media platforms claiming that they are her child, their child. It's crazy. It's insane. So let's get into the disappearance of Amy Bradley and lay out all the actual known facts that we know without the speculation. Amy Lynn Bradley was born May 12, 1974, and she's an American woman who went missing during a Caribbean cruise on the Royal Caribbean International cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas in late March of 1998 while en route to Curacao. Her whereabouts remain unknown. She was a 23-year-old Longwood University graduate at the time of her disappearance. On March 24th, 1998, the ship's door lock system recorded Amy returning to her family cabin at 3:40 a.m. after staying up late dancing. Her father, Ron, awoke around 5:30 a.m. to see her sleeping on a deck chair, but at 6 a.m. she was missing. When authorities were alerted, the Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard conducted a 4-day search in the surrounding waters and along the cruise lines to no avail. Authorities began to speculate that she may have fallen overboard and drowned. There have been possible sightings of Amy in the Curacao. In August 1998, tourists saw a woman resembling Amy on a beach, and in 1999, a member of the U.S. Navy claimed a woman in a brothel said she was Amy and she asked them for help. In the years following her disappearance, some new evidence would arise, leading to the theories including Amy being sold into a human trafficking industry or potential remains. The case has been presented on Dr. Phil and America's Most Wanted. In July 2025, the 3-part documentary series Amy Bradley is Missing was released on Netflix. I do want to give my take, because I believe that we all have our own take on this case, right? And first off, I do want to talk about the U.S. Navy man who claimed that he saw her at the brothel. She said that she was Amy Bradley, and he did not go report this. That blows my mind. It blows my mind that I would not give a living shit what I would be doing to myself if I'm helping this woman who's been missing, possibly trafficked. It's just all so weird to me. I don't believe that Amy threw herself over. And there's a part of me that doesn't believe that Amy is in some kind of ring. There's more of a part of me that feels like Amy couldn't be who she wanted to be in that family. Think about this. It's 1998. Homosexuality was not at all the okay thing back then. And Amy told many of her friends, in fact, the first 15 minutes I was watching the show, I'm like, oh yeah, she is definitely homosexual. And I guarantee you she did not feel comfortable letting her family know that. And her family seemed very in denial about a lot of things. Whenever you bring up about anything about the rug use or anything, oh no, she would never do that. Trust me. You think you know your family members. A 23-year-old female, when I was 23, I was not telling my parents or anybody in my family along that lines what the heck I was doing, especially if I knew they weren't going to approve of it. So I do believe that her family, they pick and choose. What if Amy wanted to go live a life that she didn't believe that she could live in the United States because her family would outcast her? Do I believe that if that were the case, that she would come around now in the year of 2025, where all of that is accepted? I mean, I'm not going to say every single family accepts that, but for the most part, it's acceptable. It's common. It's very common nowadays. So it's just, unless she just doesn't want to come back to America, which I can kind of understand reasons why she wouldn't want to. But that's just my take. I 1000% could be wrong. That's just the feeling that I get. Let's get into her early life and education on her background. Amy Bradley was born in Petersburg, Virginia, to Iva and Ron Bradley, an insurance executive. She had a younger brother, Brad. She was a resident of Chesterfield County, Virginia. She attended Longwood University, graduating with a degree in sports psychology. She attended with a scholarship in basketball and was known for her strong swimming abilities, as well as having previously worked as a lifeguard. Bradley came out as gay to her family while in college. Her ex-girlfriend stated that when Bradley told her parents about her sexuality, they were not happy and they were disappointed. Her father stated, "It's Amy's life. It wasn't what we chose for her, but it's her life and we loved her unconditionally." Prior to her disappearance, Ron won all expenses paid family cruise from his employer. As a celebratory event, Bradley decided to join her family on the Royal Caribbean International cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas en route to Curaçao, a Dutch Caribbean island under the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Bradley was afraid of heights and was initially apprehensive about the cruise due to the size of the ship and being out on the ocean, but was excited for the trip as Brad had returned home from college and would be joining the family on the cruise as well. Bradley had a full-time job at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, but was planning to start a new job at a computer consulting firm on her return from the family cruise. On March 21st, 1998, Bradley and her family boarded the cruise ship towards Curaçao. On March 23rd, Bradley and her brother Brad decided to stay up late, dancing and drinking alcohol with the ship's band, Blue Orchard, at a disco party on the 9th floor deck of the ship. One of the band members, Alistair, also named as Yellow Douglas, was drinking with Bradley that night and claimed that he left the party at around 1 a.m. At that time, videographer Chris Fenwick captured a moment when Bradley and Douglas were dancing. After a couple of hours, Bradley decided to rest the remainder of the night at the family cabin. The ship's computerized door lock system recorded that Brad returned at the cabin at 3:35 a.m., where Bradley followed 5 minutes later. Brad reported that he and his sister sat on the suite's balcony and talked before he went to sleep, while Amy stayed awake for a while longer before she fell asleep shortly after. Between 5:15 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. on March 24th, Ron awoke and got up to check on his children, where he saw Bradley still sleeping on the lounge chair of their cabin's balcony. Ron told local newspapers, "I could see Amy's legs from her hips down. I dozed back off to sleep. The balcony door was closed because if it hadn't been closed, I would have gotten up and closed it." However, other reports indicated that the balcony door was open at the time when he got up at around 6 a.m. However, she was missing along with her cigarettes and lighter. He later said, "I left to try and go up and find her. When I couldn't find her, I didn't really know what to think because it was very much unlike Amy to leave and not tell us where she was going." After Ron searched the common areas of the cruise ship, he woke up the rest of the family and told them Amy was missing at 6:30 a.m. On the morning of the disappearance, 3 witnesses claimed to have seen Amy on the upper deck with Alistair Douglas, also known as Yellow. He was the bassist, I believe, of that band that played on the ship. Between 5:30 a.m. and 5:45 a.m. in possession of a camera. They also testified to seeing Douglas hand Bradley a drink containing dark liquid. They claimed Bradley and Douglas arrived in the elevator at the same time and that Douglas was then seen leaving the upper deck shortly after 6 a.m. Bradley's family immediately reported her disappearance to the onboard crew and pleaded with the crew members to keep the 2,000 passengers from disembarking the cruise and to make an announcement to assist in finding Bradley. However, the team at the purser's office informed them that it was too early to make a ship-wide announcement. The crew agreed to issue an announcement at 7:50 a.m. after a majority of the passengers had left the ship, announcing, "Will Amy Bradley please come to the purser's deck between 12:15 p.m. and 1 p.m." The crew staff searched through the ship but could not find Amy. The delay that the crew put on the search and investigation of the disappearance had been said to have led to lowering the chance of finding Amy by ignoring the family's pleas and allowing the passengers to disembark. Brad recalled that Douglas came up to him shortly after Bradley disappeared and said, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister." No announcement had been made by that time, and Brad said the timing of the conversation was suspicious. The FBI interviewed Douglas soon after, and he submitted to a polygraph test, which he passed. Ron said that Douglas came out of the interview smiling with his with thumbs up to his band members, like, "Everything's cool. I knew what was going on. I knew he had been with Amy." Douglas denied knowing anything about Amy's disappearance. The Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard conducted a 4-day search that ended on March 27th, and Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines chartered a boat to continue looking for her. The Coast Guard used 3 helicopters and a radar plane to assist in the search. Initially, the authorities suspected that Bradley had either fallen overboard or died by suicide. However, investigators said that there is no evidence that Amy, a trained lifeguard, fell overboard, was pushed, or committed suicide. 1 month after Amy's disappearance, her family traveled back to Curacao and were approached by a cab driver who claimed to have seen Amy while the ship was docking on March 24th. He said Bradley was running through the parking lot in search of a phone. He stated he remembered her green eyes, which were clearly described in the reward poster. The witness also claimed to have seen Bradley in other locations on the island. The witness, however, failed to mention Amy was without shoes. The cab driver's claims were never confirmed by authorities. In August 1998, 2 Canadian divers had a possible sighting of Bradley on a popular Curacao diving beach known as Playa Porto Marie. Witness David Carmichael claimed that a woman matching Bradley's description was in presence of 2 aggressive men, one reportedly fitting Douglas's description. The witness yelled out to a friend asking if he had a piece of his dive gear. The woman, believed to be Bradley, upon hearing the man speak English, reportedly spun around and came back towards him. The witness then claimed that the man, resembling Douglas, came onto his field of vision and motioned the woman away to the beach bar. Carmichael claims that the woman would occasionally look at him and then look down, appearing to try to communicate with him. The witnesses accurately described Bradley's tattoos as well as a watch she had been given by her boyfriend. Carmichael recognized Bradley after seeing her photo on America's Most Wanted and stated, "I am haunted by the encounter with Amy. I know it was her." He later phoned Bradley's father and flew to Virginia to meet the Bradley family. The FBI investigated the reported sighting but were unable to corroborate the claims. U.S. Navy Petty Officer William Hefner claimed to have talked to a woman who said she was Bradley at a Curacao brothel in January of 1999. He claimed he was sitting in the bar area and saw 2 women sitting at a table, one of Hispanic descent and the other Caucasian descent. He then claims the Caucasian woman approached him and told him that her name was Amy Bradley and she begged him for help, explaining that she was held against her will and was not allowed to leave. He claimed the woman told him that she had been on a cruise and was partying with her brother and had disembarked the ship to score drugs, and now she was stuck here with these guys. Hefner contacted Bradley's family in May 2002 after he had retired and had seen her picture in a magazine. He did not report the incident earlier as he feared his career in the Navy, having been in a brothel. Hefner said that he has no doubt that the woman that he saw in that brothel was Amy Bradley. The FBI investigated the claims and found that the brothel had since burned down. There was no evidence to support the witness's claim. In the fall of 1999, Bradley's parents received an email from a self-proclaimed Navy SEAL soldier, Frank Jones. Frank told the family that he was a former U.S. Army special officer with a team of experienced soldiers who might be able to rescue Bradley. Jones had claimed that his team had seen Bradley being held by heavily armed Colombian personnel in a housing complex surrounded by barbed wire. The team also gave an accurate description of Bradley's tattoos and sang the lullaby that Bradley's mother used to sing for Bradley. Frank would feed news to the family and provided reports on sightings of their daughter. When Jones told them they were going to attempt a rescue, he added that more funds were needed. The Bradleys sent a total of $210,000 to fund the setup for the search. He had expected a call from Jones and his team for the results of the rescue mission that never came. Jones had made the story up and had tried to scam the Bradleys out of money. In February 2002, federal prosecutors in Richmond charged him with defrauding the Bradleys of $24,444 and the National Missing Children's Organization of $186,000. Jones pleaded guilty in April of mail fraud and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In April 2003, a potential sighting of Bradley occurred in San Francisco, California. Witnesses reportedly observed a woman who matched Bradley's description in the company of two men, allegedly watching a street musician. The witnesses asserted they immediately recognized the woman as Amy Bradley. Upon realizing they had been identified, the two men reportedly seized her and fled the scene. The woman allegedly cast a pleading look to the witnesses as she was being taken away. Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, sketches were released of the men who were believed to be with Amy at the time. There was a potential sighting of Amy in March 2005 when a witness named Judy Maurer claimed to have seen Amy Bradley in a department store restroom in Bridgetown, Barbados. She claimed a woman entered the restroom accompanied by four men who were discussing what sounded like an illegal deal. At one point, Maurer claimed the woman asked the men if they could stop and see the children. It is unknown what children were being referenced. Maurer claims at that point, the men left the restroom and she exited the stall and spoke to the woman. She said she believed the woman said she was from West Virginia and softly said her name was Amy. Maurer called authorities and they created composite sketches of the men and the woman based on her account. Bradley's parents appeared on the November 17, 2005 episode of Dr. Phil. An image of a young woman closely resembling Bradley that was emailed to her parents was shown on the program, and it suggests that she might have been sold into sexual slavery. Two photographs were discovered online by a member of an organization that attempts to track victims on sites that feature sex workers. The woman in the photo has been said to appear distraught and despondent, and was a sex worker known as Jazz. The authenticity of the photographs could not be determined by the FBI. Special Agent Aaron Sheridan stated, "We did follow that lead. The difficult part is back then, information such as pictures, such as that, you cannot tell when they are altered." A man who later worked with the FBI performed facial comparisons, and his opinion was that the photographs were of Amy Bradley. Another incident involved the finding of a jawbone that was washed ashore in Aruba in 2010. Initially, it was thought to be the jawbone of another missing persons case, Natalie Holloway. But once the jawbone was cleared of Holloway, authorities ceased any further testing, despite the fact that there were 9 other Caribbean vacationers that were said to be missing. No DNA testing was done on the material. They say the bone is human and was likely from Caucasian origin. Amy Bradley was declared legally dead on March 24th, 2010, 12 years after the disappearance, with no witnesses and no body found. There are several theories in regard to the disappearance of Amy Bradley, including one that she was kidnapped and sold into the illegal human trafficking industry in the Caribbean. This theory is supported by various sources of evidence, including a key witness from the U.S. Navy, claiming that he heard a worker at a brothel in the Caribbean claiming to be Amy Bradley, and a 2005 photo that was emailed to Amy Bradley's family. Another piece of evidence would include the inconsistencies of the witnesses on the night of the disappearance. In an interview with People magazine, Bradley's mother stated, "I remember watching people watch her admirably," and later goes on to say Amy would have been a trophy. This theory also includes suspicions of the staff and band members on the cruise on the night of the disappearance. This theory also includes suspicions of the staff and band members on the cruise on the night of the disappearance, one of these suspicions being the inconsistent story that the band member Douglas presented to the authorities opposed to what CCTV has captured that night. Many people suspected that a waiter was also involved in the disappearance. Throughout the night, Bradley's family was approached by the same waiter asking to pass on a note to Amy Bradley for him, involving an invitation for her to go drinking with him once they reached the shore. In addition, the professional photographer had printed out all photographs taken throughout the cruise to sell at a stall. But the family could not find any of Bradley's photos, making them believe that the photos had been removed by somebody. Another theory authorities considered was that Bradley was murdered on the ship and thrown overboard. However, the only evidence supporting this is the discovery of a jawbone which washed ashore on a beach in Aruba. The final theory includes Bradley falling overboard or committing suicide as initially suggested by the authorities. In November 1998, FBI Special Agent James Weber stated, "We've pursued every angle from whether there was a foul play, a suicide, or an accident, and we basically have not gotten anywhere." The FBI is currently offering a reward of $25,000 for any information that could potentially lead to the recovery of Amy Bradley or leads to an arrest or conviction to the person or persons responsible for Amy Bradley's disappearance. The family is awarding $250,000 for information leading to her safe return, and the family also has a reward of $50,000 for information leading to her current location. Bradley's case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted, and the television show Disappeared. Her case was also the subject of episode 59 of the Case File podcast and the podcast Crime Junkie and the Casual Criminalist. On July 16, 2025, Netflix dropped a 3-part documentary called Amy Bradley is Missing, and that is how I found out about this case. I want to go ahead and share what Amy would look like now with progression photos and just put them up and in hopes that maybe one day we can find Amy Bradley. Here we have a updated photo of what they believe Amy would look like, an age progression photo. And there is a reward. She was declared dead many years ago, but it is still believed that Amy Bradley is alive. That is all I have for this one, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.